to tell the people a little bit about your background and what you do and why it's
Absolutely.
so close to you?
Yes, so I go by the name of Queen Smoke, host of Air It the Fuck Out podcast. Um, I was born the oldest of six children into a dysfunctional family, teen parents, Section 8, Medicaid, Medi-Cal, Southern California bred, you know what I mean? Stomping grounds. And although we lacked the finances in my household, I never lacked love from my father or my mother. They were very young. They had six children. We had a lot of needs to be met. But I personally feel like, and you can ask each of my siblings, I don't feel like there was any kind of need going unmet in that household. We've experienced an incarcerated parent. We've experienced, I personally know, childhood sexual trauma when my father was incarcerated. Um, Experienced domestic violence in other households. My caregivers were a mix of aunts, uncles. I had a big tribe, grandparents, great grandparents, just everybody looking after us. And, sometimes those experiences and the things that you share amongst family, that uncle or that cousin that everybody wants you to stay away from. It's the unspoken code of stay away from them. But for generations and for decades and decades, they're still around. So I wanted to create a platform where I feel like the truth can be told. It's going to be offensive, it's going to be raw, it's going to be bold, but it's very intentional because so many generations across the line, we always say, oh, we all have the same lives as Black people. Every time it's comedy. We watch a relatable video, we laugh, and oh, well, my gas, I drive my car until my gas tank is almost empty too, like we can relate. But when it comes to the deep rooted issues and the things that surface in our relationships, the things that surface with our children, the things that surface with our partners, and even our parents and our coworkers, all the relationships that we have, the way in which that we were parented, that's how our relationships become. We, as much as we can't stand our parents, or we ran away from home, or or at odds with our parents, the way in which they parented us, that becomes our second hand. So for so many Black people, Black adults, and Black children, Black youth across the board, this, do as I say, not as I do, all these generational curses, all of this unspoken trauma, it has to be pulled from the root, because you're either going to continue a curse or you're going to break it. And that's by what you're going to choose to do. It's not easy. It's really hard work. Like I always say, healing is not fun. It's not fancy. And it's really deep rooted work, because you're not only doing this for yourself, you're doing this for your future and also for your past.
Yo, greatly appreciate the depth and information that you give this platform and the audience. They're already getting active in the chat. What's up, chat? It's gonna be a good discussion. I already know it, and we're only 15 minutes in. So
Right.
so what's the next turn you want to take
Okay,
with this
so
topic?
yes, sir. So I wanted to first address the relationship between a Black mother and her daughter. Um, it's pretty much about mama being a Black girl's first bully, and how a Black woman has to initially recognize it. Because, a lot of people, I just want to give a little clarity. When I started treating my parents like human beings, that's when we start becoming closer. Like I mentioned, they were teen parents. So did they do everything perfect? Absolutely not. Did they have a lot of flaws? Absolutely. Good, bad, ugly. But the things that they did change for me and my siblings, the apologies, always communicating, just especially me and my mother. So many young Black girls have told me like they envy the relationship, because like I always say, I have spent so many times across the board, and family and friends and people that I cared about their households. It's nothing like me and my mother's. They bitches and hoes more than they're their real names. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we don't talk enough about how Black mothers were their daughter's first bully. And I just want to start it off by um, giving you the question of, why do you think that is? Why do you think so many Black women are afraid of mama?
Because I think a lot of daughters fear their mothers from the standpoint that the mother probably didn't have very good communication skills. Most of them haven't healed from, like, every mother's a daughter. And all the daughters have been treated the same way. So they've just been programmed through verbal and psychological abuse and mental control, and all they do is hand off generational narcissism. So,
Right.
like, there was some clips with on Ayala Van Zant Fix My Life with Lisa Ray, her mama, and her daughter, and all three of them the same one.
Right.
Because somebody, because of extra romantic relationships that went in place of the parental relationship, because they were trying to maintain, they was pursuing more of a lifestyle than anything. And I personally believe that anyone that has that type of outcome with their kids, it is generally a bad parent, because if you focused on anything else other than just making sure that your kid is a great communicator and and can protect themselves, you're just being a bad parent.
Right. Okay, it's a lot of mothers that they love to come at their daughters with the phrases like you fast, policing what they wear. Right, grown women, that's exactly what I want. But when you mention you that's the same rules don't apply to your daughter. Which I'm grown, that's the cop out. Or stop switching like that. When a man comes, put some clothes on, things like that. The same women that advocate for the twerking, advocate for the nasty music, advocate for the sexualized and hypersexual lifestyle, but as soon as the daughter starts growing up, they sexualize their own daughters. Those thoughts don't even be in these little girls' minds. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But why do you think that is? Why do you think that Black women see their little Black girls, innocent Black girls, as threats?
Because they don't see themselves as innocent. I think that they remember the innocence that they had violated, because like there's a lot of 90% of the Black women that I've talked to, I rarely meet a Black woman that's never been sexually assaulted. Mm-hmm. Rarely. Think about that for a second. Think about all the women and how many women do you know that don't have that in their back? You're more impressed or more shocked, I guess, when a woman doesn't have that experience. So I think most women have already had that experience, and I think they project that fear onto their daughters. So that's number one, coming from a genuine, honest place, regardless of how misplaced that fear is, right? Mm-hmm. Then the other part is the lifestyle that those women lived before they had those children, before they had daughters. And then they know the choices that they made, especially if they never manufactured a relationship with a man and became a wife. Most women that never became anybody's wife was somebody's side chick for the most part. And that's just real honest look at it, because if you'd have had a whole bunch of male attention and you've never been married, at some point, do you look at it like, have I been a side chick most of my dating experience? Because if I was a guy, and which I am obviously, and I spent my life out of a relationship, but I was cool and I was single, and that's just what I wanted to do, it would hit different. Right. But I don't know most women that decide at 18 or 19 or whenever that they age of dating, and attracting male attention, that they want to keep dating all the way into their 40s and 50s or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So in my opinion, most of those women were side chicks all of their life. And generally speaking, they come from a long line of side chicks.
Right. I wanted to tap into this subject that I talked about last week when I said vicarious trauma. A lot of Black girls that was primarily raised by their Black mothers suffer from vicarious trauma. I wanted to just tap into that a little bit. It's also known as secondary traumatic stress or compassion fatigue. So it's the emotional and psychological distress experienced by individuals who learn about or witness the trauma of others. It's a form of indirect trauma where individuals take on the emotional burdens of others, traumatic experiences, leading to similar symptoms as those experienced by someone directly traumatized, which leads me into my next question. Can we talk about how Black moms project their own pain with Black men onto their daughters and expect them to either be better than them or suffer like them?
It's delusional. I think that at that point, the I guess you want to talk about the projection of it. Like, are you asking why do they do that?
Yeah.
I like to start with why. Mm-hmm. Because of resentment. and not knowing how to put themselves in a submissive capacity to learn from someone else because they've been told that they have to be the authority at all times and don't let anybody else control you because they've been mentored by fear. Again, all mothers are daughters first. And you always got to go back to like who put that software in your mind. You know what I'm saying? And what kind of environment. So that's one part. That's what I tell you.
Right.
And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever. And then, but if I put you in an environment where what I told you is validated all the time, and if I put nothing but fear in your mind, and fear and projection, and then you also live in a place that reflects everything that I'm telling you, you're gonna feel like, oh yeah, it's valid. You know what I'm saying? So if you take so I'm modeling this thing, right? I'm illustrating this. If you take a girl that's raised in a household full of women, and none of the women are married, and they all have tumultuous experiences with men. The girls are looking at what's going on, and if they're also immersed in the relationship itself, where they recognize the man, they can see how many different men that this particular woman in the household has had, and each one of the relationships spiraling out of control and leading to something catastrophic. Yeah, the fear of men is going to be there. It's no different than, let me model it this way too, because that's just on a sexual level, right?
Right.
What if it was the KKK? What if you had a house where you got young children that only see white hoods, and that's their primary interaction with people that's not their skin tone,
right?
And especially if it's white people, right? And they develop a nervous system reaction to this. You know what I'm saying? A shock to this. It's the same thing. Very like, I want the listener to hear what I'm saying. If you're ever in conflict about if something's right or wrong, when it comes down to man and woman and why these double standards exist and all of that stuff, and then you get met with an opposing view, and they're saying that they're right, but both of y'all end up being right in terms of debate. Change it from man to woman to a racism conversation. And see if that same treatment is modeled the same way. It's like no different than relationship energy. If your parent is treating you in a way that you don't like,
right,
and you're also in a romantic relationship where you're not feeling value because they're not treating you the way that you would like, but you hang on to the nasty relationship that you got with your mom,
right,
but you just discard the guy that you was with or a girl, because this also applies to men too. You're going to be constantly replacing people because you're never going to be happy, but you hanging on to the toxic relationship over here. That's the software of how you communicate. That's the reason why you're moving the way that you're moving. So when you so to bring it back to where the mothers feel comfortable projecting it, because they're experts in failure. They're experts in terrible communication. Because the other side of the romantic relationship's not working. How are the other women treating each other in the house? So what level of communication is that modeling for a child that's watching her adult elders, you know what I'm saying, communicate about real world issues as it pertains to relationships? And if they're the primary agent, if the primary agent is the primary elder for modeling that behavior for that child has been a side chick for 20 years before that child was even born, what the hell, you know what I'm saying, is the child learning?
Right. And that was going to lead into what I like to say, the ripple effect. Broken daughter, broken bond, which is something you always address when you talk about who's protecting women from women. How does growing up with an emotionally unstable or aggressive mother impact a woman's ability to form healthy relationships with other Black women?
Have you seen Tyler Perry's For Color Girls? Case in point, primary example, like all of the different personalities, like I think the primary that comes to mind is Whoopi Goldberg's character. because she used to be in the street, and then she had uh, uh, two children that was by a white man,
Right.
by two different white men, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken,
two different ones. Yep.
and played by Thandie Newton and Tessa Thompson. And then so like Whoopi's got an identity issue because she's dark skinned, and then the Tessa Thompson and Thandie Newton's characters are light skinned mixed. So there's a disconnect there because women identify through colorism. Black women do specifically. You know,
Absolutely.
they hate on each other based on skin tone and everything else, amongst other things. And then in that, Thandie is promiscuous. Tessa is promiscuous as well. And then Whoopi's character is all of a sudden uber religious, a radical at this point. She's unhinged because it's easier to give it all to God than to deal with the actual problem of behavior that she's already programmed into her girls as the mother, and not to mention the identity issue that go along with it.
Right.
Because their fathers are white, then they've never seen their mother embraced by a man. So if their mother ain't getting embraced by a man, then the daughters ain't gonna get embraced by a man.
Right.
So now all they got is competition and resentment. And then on top of that, remember the communication that what I was talking about was being modeled before we got to this question?
Right.
Now you can't work out a real problem. Now we can't talk about a problem. We can't even get to the table with it because you won't even tell these girls what type of sexual activity used to be engaged in, where her father is.
Right.
Everybody that you was with can't be a deadbeat. Everybody that you was with just simply can't be a deadbeat. And you can't keep putting that on the invisible man. You know what I'm saying? Blame and absence is not accountability. What did you do? Especially if you repeated the process. I'll give you one. I can understand it. I'm not necessarily co-signing it or saying that it's okay. It's just reasonable to do that, because nobody's perfect. But when you repeat the same process and get the same failure, you know what I'm saying, multiple times, at some point we got to assess if you got a mental illness or not.
Absolutely. What happens when we go out into the world with no model for softness, for care, for compassion, or mutual respect?
Chaos, failure, manipulation. You just living on ego and no boundaries. You have no emotional discipline. You have no standard. Your expectation for success or failure is based on whatever's in your head. It's not based on what the environment is telling you is good for you or not, And generally speaking, you're going to meet somebody else that's thinking the same way as you, but with more desire to inflict pain and embarrassment on you to get exactly what you want as well, and there's always going to be competition. People are wired to compete with you before they compliment you. And you know how many dummies you got to walk past before you meet a smart person?
Can I ask you, just while you discussing this, can you explain what you mean when you always say that a lot of Black youth raised by their mothers have a humiliation kink? I just want people to be able to understand the behavior and understand the root of why they do what they do.
So the humiliation kink is like, you ever see someone that consistently bumps their head over and over again to the point where it looks like you're doing it on purpose and they want to be the victim at some point? That's exactly what it is. They always want to fight, and they want competition. They invite it into their space because that's the only way that they feel validated. And eventually it's gonna meet somebody else that has the same thing, kind of like what I was saying previously, right? And some people believe that they're only validated, or the only means of getting attention is to create conflict. That's why, like, you even see it online, where the only time that some specifically women in this conversation, they only get attention when they're arguing on social media. And eventually they're going to get into a situation where the embarrassment of the situation is going to be more attractive than anything. Because like now they're going to say, y'all looking at me now. You know what I'm saying? Everybody else just hating. It's easy to say that, girl, you ain't got no haters. You got people that you entertaining right now. And so that's part of what I believe is the humiliation kink. The humiliation kink of it all is the fact that some people will confuse and conflate attention for attraction, you know,
Right.
and they're not the same, you know. Attention is just anybody looking at you. And then the other thing is too, I think women inherently know that shame does not stick to women the way that it sticks to men. Because there's no consequence.
I agree.
If you start seeing it, you start seeing people get aired out, beat up, get locked up, they'll change what they're doing, you know. And I'm not advocating for violence or whatever, but because those people are going to attract whatever they're putting out anyway. But I think the main reason that behavior is so attractive to those people is, number one, they don't have any emotional discipline. They have a dangerous need to be right. All of the sign language conversation, and they learn that behavior from the women in their family because they've seen their aunts fight each other. They fight with their sisters. They've seen their mothers and grandmothers argue with each other. They've seen all of the women compete for the worst men to get pregnant by. They've seen all of that stuff, and that's all that they know. And on top of that, not on just what they've seen, they don't respect men. So they're not going to listen to a man say, hey, that's unbecoming. That's not classy. And then they'll disagree, say, well, I get my brother on you. They go straight to conflict. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And their brother is raised just as combative as they are, if not more.
Right. Because like you said, house full of women, but he got the testosterone, but he got the emotions of his mama and the estrogen.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
You basically got Android software in an Apple device.
Right.
And you're shocked it's not working right. It's crazy.
Some of us, like collectively as Black women, are scared to love Black men, not because they even hurt us. You know what I mean? But because of our mama's heartbreak becoming our fears, you know? And I feel like so many Black women, we always say that niggas ain't it. But like, rarely do we discuss Black women that have lost love, you know what I mean? Because of their behavior and their attitudes, because the shame, like you said, is always for Black men to carry.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So like, there's never a conversation. When we have the conversation, it's very sensitive because Black women don't like the word training, you know? But when you are in a relationship, like I said, when you train for a fitness competition, or you train to change your body or to gain weight or lose weight, nobody minds that. When you start a new job and they train you the way that they want you to work, it's okay, you know? But when we talk about relationships with Black men and Black women, and since it's always so abuse related and victimhood, you know, of the Black woman's experience that most have heard, we don't give any credit to the good Black men that got away, you know? Because I mean, if those statistics from earlier, we know who's doing a little bit more of the thrill seeking, you know? And I feel like for so many young Black women, their mothers have done a disservice for them. You know what I mean? Just for them to experience real love. And when they had it, I've heard many, many stories of so much regret, so much guilt of young Black girls, you know, having a family with a good guy, showed up for his children, showed up for his child or children, you know, still there, still present for the children, but no longer in that connection with her. And they regret it. They say, you know, he's married now and I'm still hopping from man to man. I was the best person of my life. I've heard it so many times. It's in my comments, you know, it's in my DMs. The story is the same. But when we as a collective want to talk about mama, it's taken as a stake to the heart, you know, How dare you? But it's like, if mama chooses and mama says her body, her choice, you have to deal with the consequences of what you produce. And a lot practice parental alienation. I feel like baby mama is an honor and a badge amongst the Black community, so much so that non-Black women are glorifying it, glamorizing it, you know, especially with Black men as well. They love their accessories. And Black women, we shape everything. We shape the culture. You know what I mean? We shape relationships. We shape how Black men step up for us by how we behave and how we act and how we put ourselves out there. So when we say that, oh no, black men are showing up to the events, you know what I mean? But you're saying that they gonna die alone? It seems opposite to me. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's how we really can tap into the fact that a lot of us owe black men an apology. And I'm not even gonna say it as a on a romantic level. On a romantic level, yeah, absolutely. But not even on that.
On a platonic
You
level.
owe your daddy, or your black daddy, an apology for how you get at him and how you speak about him, and your daddy works so hard, and you get on the internet and say, my daddy don't never tell me no. That's a problem. That means if you sat down with your daddy and got to know him for his heart and not his wallet, you'll probably understand that daddy's overwhelmed. You know what I mean? Daddy created a false perception of stress. He made you think that the life was untouchable and you were untouchable. That's not how it goes. So even if you had two parents, we're talking about your mama still being the primary, your mama still being the bullheaded one, your mama still making all the last decisions, your father's voice going on her, but his wallet being real loud and clear. We have to make that known because there's so many people that also like to argument. I have two parents. All two parent households weren't created equal. Let's not forget that part, you know?
Yeah.
We get upset when our black men, you know, when they want to go pursue other options in this community, I mean, in another community, you know, but we don't want to do any work. Yeah, dating.
Yeah.
Dating, we don't. And then we have to understand, we love to say, your mama black, your auntie black, your cousin black, your sister's black. But what was their experience with that black woman, you know, the black male?
Well, let me address that part right there, though.
Absolutely.
Black men only marry out at like 15%, something like that. You know, only 25% of black men are married. And black men are married to black women 93% of the time.
Right.
So black men, despite all of the things that's affiliated with single motherhood and everything else, truthfully, black men have the lowest standards for our women.
Mm-hmm.
And we still marry them. You know what I'm saying? When we do get married, that's the point, you know? So for black women to have an opinion about who a black man has as an option, that's an indictment on them. Because the thing is, I keep saying this, there's no group of men in outside of America that's coming to America to marry American black women. And American black women respect a man in a dress more than the man that make their kids. Right. They will make a baby with the wrong man before they make a sandwich for the right one. And on top of that, they won't find a way to have respectful communication with the only men that make their children. Like nobody else is coming to make a legacy with you. No, white men that date black women, we're just talking about average Joe. I'm not talking about rich people. I'm not talking about entertainers. I'm not talking about athletes.
Right.
Generally speaking, if somebody is attracted to black women outside of their race, they're usually dated out. They have maxed out. They're probably not the most desirable man within their own culture. So they have to go get with somebody else that they can particularly relate to. And they usually have on a mask. They usually chameleon until they get you, and then they turn into who they always been. But the black women that accept that think they use that as a flex. They'll be quick to say that black men lost out because they found somebody that was outside of their race to date them, you know?
Right.
But generally speaking, you're still not dating anybody that you can't date anyone that's got a self-esteem higher than yours. You can only date someone, everybody you lay down with is just compatible as you on a psychological level. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Because you're confusing character with characteristics.
And just like when you said that, you know, when black women and it's all across social media, when a black woman dates out, you know, like you said, she's doing better. You know, when a black man dates out,
he must have been tired.
You know? Right. Yeah, you're a sellout, you know? Like they pushed you out for the black woman. You got pushed out, but a black man, you a sellout. You know what I mean? Like, gotta make it make sense.
No, we could date anyone. That's why, before we go to that, the black women that talk about black men that date out, you're jealous because you had a chance. You was closest to him.
Right.
And people that complain can't afford it or don't qualify. Because people that can get it just shut up and go get it. So stop complaining. You shouldn't even be judging nobody else's relationship. How about that? You just lost and you're just jealous. And you're just really being a hater. You know what I'm saying? Because the vast majority, the larger percentage, an overwhelming percentage of Black men are single and looking to marry Black women. And they were, you know what I'm saying? I think that shift has happened, and they would rather be single than to even be with. And that's the other thing too. Most of them would rather be single than to date outside their race or to be with someone outside their race.
Absolutely. And it just goes to show that Black men, they do give us so much grace, you know, even with the emasculation. You can call your baby daddy if he blocked right now. He ain't seen his kid in 6 months and he will come running. You know what I mean? With no problems.
Yep.
It's like they're not our sons to raise. You know what I mean? And so many of the behaviors that you accepted while with the courting period, how quick or how long that may have been, like you said, that mask falls off eventually, and you accepted that. But somehow, some way, you feel like it's not that your child deserves better when you accepted that and you laid down and let a seed be planted in your womb. You know what I mean? So it's just like a lot of us have to really, like you said, it's humility. It's humility. The wrong people, the wrong men in your lives that you choose, they get years and years. And you stay, you know. But when it's a decent brother, he get ignored. He only get called when you need it, when you need the things that a man does. Oh, my tire. I got a man for that. I need lunch. I got a man for that, you know. Yep. I need emotional release. I got a man for that, you know. I got a man for everything. But when it comes to being able to live with and harmony with, it's impossible, you know,
because they don't respect men. They don't value men outside of utility. That's why those guys that you see that come, that's a whole single mother household, right? That family full of women. The first son comes along, and they raise him to be a handyman. Now he fixing all of the aunties' houses. You know what I'm saying? He cutting everybody grass. He pressure washing sidewalks. Can you come over here? Now he worked for the women.
Right.
And that's why a lot of those guys that work with their hands, they come from them type of families. And they spend the rest of their life, you know, I got to take care of mama. I got a friend of mine, he live in Mississippi. And he was born, he has a different father than his brothers. And so he can visibly see the difference between his dad and the sons that he didn't, you know what I'm saying, that he didn't father.
Right.
Because they don't have any ambition. They stuck around their mama. They won't get off the titty. You know what I'm saying? And they got to wait for their mama approval on everything. These dudes 30 and 40 years old. Ain't never left home. And then on top of that, he in the community, he sent me a study. I should have sent this to you, man. Like, it's it was a layout. Man, I'm finna pull this thing up. I got it right here.
Definitely.
Like, you need to see this. This is crazy. Like, it's a study that shows what the largest concentration of single parents are. And because he's from a spot in Mississippi where all of the men that's there ain't never dated a woman that didn't have children. So they grow up being cultured into being step parents automatically. Yeah, forget about that. You know, like it's crazy to even think of. And I'm pulling it up now because it was very, very insightful to me. And I hadn't even you know what I'm saying, really read into it, but I think that was a great time to pull it up.
Right.
So here we go. Come on, screen. All right, here we go. Let me get this little knick-knack out the way. All right. Percentage of babies born to, is this thing showing up pretty good?
Yes, I see it good.
Okay, good. Because I want to be able to see the data on it and zoom in if I need to. All right. So births to unmarried women. Oh, man. Oh, here we go. Over here on the legend, you see it's greater than 50%. And then all of the red states reflect that. And even though it's not red, these are some crazy numbers though. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So your percentage of dating someone that's got kids already is significantly high in these areas, right? So let's see here. What's on here? So here goes some good numbers, right? It says all races across the board, right? And then I don't know exactly what these particular numbers are because I haven't studied this thing yet, and I don't want to say the wrong thing. But the fact that they can even track it lets you know how big of a deal it is. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But even just looking at the map visually, that is a significant amount of people. So, like, if you lined up 10 people and you in these red states right here, 5 of them already got children. 4.5 of them got children. 4 of them got children. You know what I'm saying? 3.5 people got children already. Even though it says 35, just simulating off of 10, doing some quick math.
Right.
So why is Amazon up here? Where did that come from? But that's the point, though. These are the options that men have to choose from. You know,
Right.
when it comes down to it. So we have to work off of those numbers from the get go, and we're the only people that have to figure out, you know what I'm saying, settling for that right away. And it is settling. I don't care what nobody think about it.
I was always taught, the highest honor you could give a man is his seed,
Yeah.
And if you handed it out to everybody, what's special about you creating a legacy when you got one for every Tom, Dick, and Harry in town? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. This
when it comes to
let me put that link in
for the mothers watching and things like that. I just want you to pay attention and understand that if your daughter turns out exactly like you, would that be a blessing or would that be a curse? And I know a lot of you won't be real about it. I know a lot of you going, not pay attention to being your ego. But at the end of the day, she's your mirror. That's why a lot of you are at odds with your daughters. Because they hold up a mirror that nobody else can. Not your homegirls, not your mom can hold up a mirror. But your daughters, the ones that you carry, the ones that are a part of you, the ones that are looking at you and looking up to you every day about how they're gonna navigate this world as a Black girl, as a Black woman, in relationships and friendships, in a professional setting. They're emulating you. So what are you teaching them? What are you showing? And directly and indirectly, verbally and non-verbally, what are you teaching your little girls to be acceptable? That's acceptable. What are you showing them? Things that are correct or things that are inappropriate. You have to check that at the door. And a lot of people always say parenting doesn't come with a manual, but so many of us know what it felt like to not get our needs met collectively, you know what I mean? So many Black women know the battle it is to get mama to love them, to get mama to see them, to not have to perform for mama's love, to not have to choose her family that she really wants or mama. Like you said, to not have to choose her friends. Really understanding that you are the beginning or the end. You can end everything that you've learned or you can continue, and it's really up to you.
Man, look, the responsibility that people have individually is something that has to be cultivated. Meaning that somebody has to be able to tell you how to say no. Because no is the only protection that you got. You have to decide what you won't accept. And you get manipulated a lot. Well, as a child, you're not allowed to say no, depending on the era that you was born into, right? Because a lot of parents, it was just easier for them to tell you to do as I say and not as I do, versus sitting you down and explaining, hey, the reason I told you no is because this is what I can see that can happen. And I don't want to tell you yes without educating you, without giving you an educated opportunity to make a decision with all the information. Because if it's important to you, I wanna be able to help you with that. But it take a lot of maturity for a parent to sit down. It take a lot of maturity for adults to even do that, and adults ain't even doing it. So trying to do that with a kid is going to be something else. You know, they'd rather tell them babies come from the stork. You know what I'm saying? Than to tell them, hey, this is what it looks like. You know what I'm saying, between man and woman. This is what they go through. What they don't tell you, they always show you, like on the old cartoons, they show the man and the woman hugging each other, and then before the end of a 30-minute episode, it's a baby. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Sorting and drop them off as a baby in a basket. You know what I'm saying? It's something at the doorstep, and then you got some kind of chaos going along with it. Like I remember that episode where Bugs Bunny was playing a baby, and it was two gorillas, and then the female gorilla wanted to keep Bugs, and he was like,
right,
he's been cheating. He's like, I did it. You know, but it's so bad. But all this stuff is just programming. You know what I'm saying? Even Popeye had the same thing going on. Olive Oyl was a single mother, and Bluto and Popeye was beating each other up in the street, and they was Navy veterans. You know what I'm saying? and Popeye and Olive Oyl wasn't that. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And Popeye was a simp, and when she got tired of Popeye, she go hang out with Bluto.
Right.
Bluto was abusive. When Bluto started beating on her, did she say, "Help, Popeye"? Then he throw that spinach back. You know what I'm saying? When he could have been rolling the tree. And then now he got to go fight Bluto, somebody he served with,
right,
over a single mother with we don't even know where Sweet Pea came from. What did that at?
Right.
So there was just dysfunction. You know what I'm saying? That's why entertainment is based off of dysfunction. Because it's the exception. Entertainment is the exception. That's why it maintains your attention. It's in your imagination. It's like, man, I wish somebody would say this, or I wish I could see this on the screen. When you could probably do it for yourself, you probably had a lot of that stifled, you know what I'm saying, stifled in your life. How many people you know used to be able to draw?
A bunch.
Used to play music, used to paint, used to have some sort of creative or artistic expression that they miss when they get older. But if it had been nurtured or poured into in some kind of way, who knows where, you know, what you'd be doing right now, you know? Right. And once you discover that you got an artistic niche at something, everything becomes art around that. You know, you got a methodology that nobody else can see or whatever. But in those households where there's a bunch of women, most of their activities are centered on vanity. All of that artistic expression is used to try to look like some other version of you that you don't know.
Right.
You're in the mirror putting on makeup all the time. You're not concerned with the important things that's aligned with character. You know what I'm saying? You worry about being able to mimic, you know what I'm saying, the language. That's why women learn some things faster than men. You know what I'm saying? And I think women learn dysfunction faster than men do. I think because dysfunction is normal for women. Men have to be like, fuck it, this it right here. I gotta submit to my environment. Like when you listen to stories like DMX, how his mama dropped him off at a group home and disappeared. And so he ended up in the streets because that's the natural path. And he was about to hit this blunt. And then this dude laced it when he was 11 years old.
Right.
That's crazy when you think about that at the older you get, like at 11 years old, being even in that situation. So there's been bad mothers for a long time. Rap music comes from single mothers. The mainstream rap music that made up the 2000s, whatever, that was just angry men with no creative outlet. We just started talking about mental health and getting me inside of the story in like the last 10 years, maybe even less than that. I'm being very generous and being very conservative. You know what I'm saying? So, and then even then they said it was misogynistic. Well, what do you call this now? Now we're in the misandrist area.
Right. Absolutely. And you
So,
just speaking on DMX leads us straight into addressing the mother and son relationship, because I really want to address this for the simple fact that Black women create the same kind of men that they despise. And I'll say that again, Black women create the same type of men that they despise. You always have this phenomenon that you talk about called the naked mama.
all right, folks. Appreciate you sticking with me to the end. This has been another episode of Beyond the Algorithm. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Go get the book. And most importantly, I will see you beyond the algorithm, because that's where life actually happens.